we're gonna have the drums come on in here. Let's get some hand drums in it. You guys feel like dancing, you can. All right, let's get some tambourine action in here. Come on now. Let me hear the maracas. Come on, get them going. All right, now it's not your turn. You can hand clap. Come on, that's good. Yeah. Well, that's a joyful noise right there. When I say Walter, you say Hermanns. Walter, Walter. When I say Walter, you say Hermanns. Walter, Walter, Hermanns. We're here on the Friday night. No, it's Wednesday. I got plenty to say. I got everybody here and they coming this way. I know we got Walter and it's like this way. Everybody gotta get down tonight. Everybody on the Grassroots fight. And we gotta make the dog with Bonk and play. Call the signs and they bounce the honk and say, I'm glad that all of us are jamming. Know that we got a little understanding. And everybody got the brand new microphone and you put it up in your hand. And my companions all like the jamming. Know that we get down like a brand. I put it down for everybody to see how we gotta rock it beautifully. When I say family, you say power. Family, family. When I say bomb, you say bomb. Bomb, bomb. When I say Walter, you say Hermanns. Walter, Walter. Yeah, yeah. Let's just groove with these guys. Let me hear the hand clap. You guys rocking while you do it. Come on. Come on now, get the rhythm. Let's go. That's a lot of you. We're like 2-7. Kind of family in the house. Yeah, 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 yeah. When I say Walter, you say Hermanns. Walter, Walter. When I say Walter, you say Hermanns. Walter, Walter. Now we gotta get everybody on the mic, cause we gotta do it all the way tonight. And I know that it is really nice, so everybody here feels like paradise. Got artistic qualities, you want me calling me. Now I gotta do all this quality. Everybody in my man came wrong. Get down, going on and get jam on. Playing on the six, let's fight. Freestyle, get down every single night. My man Christian playing on the guitar, and the guy get in like we're down at the yeah, I know what we're gonna do. Got people jamming for you. Just so you understand it, I do. We're gonna get down for you. When I say Walter, you say Hermanns. Walter, Walter. When I say Walter, you say Hermanns. Walter, Walter. A little more jam, y'all. A little more jam. We're gonna give a little solo action to different people, okay? So we're gonna start with the hand claps in the crowd. Alright, so let's make sure you guys are getting your hand claps going, okay? Alright, when I drop, the whole band's gonna drop, alright? So just hand claps. Ready? Alright, jump back in, guys. That's very good, that's very good. I like that. Hand clapping. Alright, now when I drop, just the tambourines are gonna hit, okay? Alright, just the tambourines. Alright, everybody, come on now, back in. Alright, when we drop now, this is gonna be my man Cameron. Cameron, you can get down for us real quick? When you drop, you just keep going, okay? Yeah! Yeah! here now, come on. Yeah. All right, when I drop, when I make air on a hand drum, get it real quick. Ready? Here we go. Y'all ready for that? I think so. Here we go. Ready? Ready? Get back in there. All right. We can't leave anybody out here. We gotta let my man John get down on the bass here. When I drop, we're gonna let John get down on the bass here. Ready? Here we go. Y'all count music with us. Here we go. Go back in there. All right, we're going to do one more hand clap, all right? One more hand clap. Y'all ready? On the hand clap. Here we go. Drop. All right, everybody back in right here. Come on now, here we go. All right. So when I do the drop, we're all going to stop at once, but we got to do this first. When I say Walter, you say Hermanns. Walter, Walter. When I say Walter, you say Hermanns. Walter, Walter, Hermanns. 1, 2, 3, 4. Thanks for participating with us.
Okay, I'm just going to I'm going to start by reading one of Walter's poems. It's such a great start too. He wrote a little series called Punctuation, I think. And all of them, the titles were just pieces of punctuation. So like one's a question mark, one's a semicolon. This one is the at symbol. So this is called at 923. Part of the reason why I picked this, the beat generation, which people know about, beat poets and everything like that, Kerouac, Ginsberg, all those funny people. Some of the reason why they chose that title, the beat generation, why they coined that, was something that people don't think about, at least. Part of it was beatitude. Part of it was like, we're tired, we're beat. And there were a few other things, but one was to reference beatitudes. And that gets really overlooked, I guess, in discussions about beat poets. So that plays into this. So this is at, on September 23rd, 2013. Where you be at? Where you beat at? Where you beat it at? Where you be a tit at? Where you be a dude at? Where you beatitude at? Blessed are you who know where you be at. Walter Hermanns.
One thing about Walter, he didn't hesitate about being in relationships. And relationships, I don't know about you, but they require a great deal of courage. And that's one thing that Walter did not shirk away from, was courage. Had a lot of courage, whether it be his relationship with nature, which included catching and riding in his vehicle, powered vehicle, even if it was raining, which you're not supposed to do. But he didn't care. Walter didn't let the weather deter him. It meant that he had a good relationship with goals. He balanced goals for himself very well. He knew how much spirit to give out and how much to keep in. I liked all that part about him. He knew how to do that balance that we need to have of goals. I share the same dis-ease as Walter. I could watch myself in the pool as I watched him in the pool. I could still walk in the pool, but he had to be lifted down in the pool. But that didn't stop him from smiling at me and having a wonderful relationship with this disease. He met it square on, and he told me I had to meet it square on. I had to find the voice that came out of me, newly created voice that came out of me because of our shared disease. And he had relationships with a lot of humans. Yay, we're here hollering, Walter. And he had relationships with God that were very strong and speak to those beatitudes you talked about. My readings of Walter is from 9:17. I think it's the same period of punctuation discussion because I have the semicolon. 9:17. Sometimes I wonder about the rules. I know that A follows B, but what about the unnatural coupling of it all? My two grand dogs are Poodle Pomeranian mix. I suppose winking is okay for those with 2 eyes, but what about the insects with 100 eyes? Or the cyclops, for that matter. And why do I like breaking the rules? Well, and the rules, and are there rules for Aboriginal semicolons? You got to think about that one for a while. Really, I'm sorry, I just have to pause. I'm thinking about this thing I have about wall art, a semicolon with all those pictures. I don't know. Aboriginal semicolons, or for the wink of that matter, the same. And do you have to drink the same nasty gallon of Gold Lightly before a semicolonoscopy? Oh, can I relate? When I read Gold Lightly, I went, oh my God, I know that stuff. And is it the same as a nasty gallon of Gold Lightly before a semicolonoscopy that you drink with its full-bodied cousin? It puts me to mind of something that Rilke said. Love consists of this, that two solitudes protect and touch and greet each other. When we have the courage to protect, touch, and greet ourselves and each other with love, our lives will be illuminated by the light of rewarding relationships. Walter did not sidestep any of these relationships. He had it right.
Of my own. I live on this block, so I'm always, and I work at the library, so I'm walking this strip all the time, going to the stores down there, whatever. And one day, this is, I don't know, maybe, it was last winter, I guess. I was walking down this street, and when I got right to this corner of 6th and College, I saw there was a dude backwards in a chair, like spinning wheels. I was like, yeah, that's my guy for sure. So I walk up to Walter, I'm like, hey man, how long you been here? Less than a day. Could you give me a push?
I'm getting
take it anymore. Pain I'm feeling is real, and I'm hurting like I've never hurt before. And it's bringing me down, all the way to the ground. Man, I got myself out of place. Man, I got myself out of here. Gotta get out this love right now, but it's tougher than I ever thought. Tide is coming right now. It's alright, 'cause what you need is what I got.
Everybody give it up for Walter. You tell that he was loved by how many people are here today. You can just feel it. You know, most of the time, the more love that you give out to people is the love that you receive in return, and you can definitely tell that here. That's why when I pass away, there'll be nobody in the audience but Bill Collectors. Yeah, nobody but Bill Collectors, because that's the only people that want anything from me at all. I know what you guys are thinking too, seeing me up here. When did Charles Barkley start doing stand-up? And more importantly, when did he start working at Burger King? It looks like a McDonald's outfit. You know, it seems like a heat wave, you know, today compared to the last few days. Yeah, I was stuck out in that 40 below wind chill, flat tire the other day. I couldn't believe it. Yeah, out there for 2.5 hours. Luckily, this homeless man kept me company, you know, and he had a nice spring jacket on. He didn't really seem to care too much what was going on. I saw this lady in crutches that was running down the street. That was pretty interesting. See her do a full sprint like that. Saw another lady get beat up by the wind, throwing up on the glass. I couldn't believe that. But what I really want to talk about is more like a therapy session, because now I got a thing with my teeth falling out. So I'm always looking, you know, to try to, you know, get the best toothpaste and stuff that I can. So I went there and looked, and then you got your Ultra Bright, you got your Oral-B, you got your Crest, you got, you know, which one do you choose? So I'm sitting there and I'm looking, and I'm starting to read the ingredients to see, you know, there's got to be something that's good in here that stands out more than the rest. And as I'm reading it, one of the things I seen that were in there was fluoride. And I'm like, fluoride? You know, fluoride, it's in rat poison. It's been a rat poison since the 1800s. I couldn't believe that. And some people might say, Adonis, you know what, chill out, you know. Fluoride, it helps to clean your teeth. You know, it gets rid of germs. But so does Tidy Bowl cleaner, but we don't rinse our mouths with that. You know, back in the day, your mom used to rinse your mouth out with soap. You know, if you were bad, what she should have did is made you drink a bunch of toothpaste because of all the fluoride. That's all. I just wanted to talk about my teeth. Everybody give it up one more time for Walter. Now, this is really great. And I'm hoping that if you're a performer at all, that in his memory that you would get out and perform more and encourage people to get out and perform more too. Because just how he helped people to gain that, you can do the same. Thank you. I'm Adonis Jamal.
When it snows outside,
Well, first of all, I am not very comfortable standing in front of a microphone, but for Walter, I will do anything. I met Walter actually at a deathbed. The first time I met Walter was when I remember meeting him was in 1991. I was the hospice nurse, and he was the pastor. And we met around 2 o'clock in the morning at the deathbed of an elderly woman. And I was so impressed with the way he prayed and the way he handled this situation that I went home and told my husband, who was also a Lutheran pastor, that I thought Walter was the best pastor. And my husband says, well, what about me? And I said, well, you're second best. But anyway, I love them both. My husband's name happens to be Warren, and of course, Walter is Walter, W-A-W-A. So Walter and I used to have a little bit of fun when we would go around to places. People would think that that was my husband. This is your husband, this Lutheran pastor. And so we kind of like to, I'm sorry, Lynn, but we did sometimes pretend that we were married. The good Sienna sister nuns were the ones we liked to trick the most. Anyway, Walter became my neighbor about 9 years ago. Actually, we became his neighbor. We moved and we were within 3 blocks of Walter. And now, as he would call up once in a while, and most recently, a couple years ago, it was before he started the gentle worship that Claire and Walter started. He called me up and said, Joni, could you want to go for a walk with me? And I thought, go for a walk? I mean, he didn't walk anymore. He was in his chair. And I said, well, sure. And I said, where are you? And he said, well, I'm right up by your driveway. So I went out, and we literally walked an hour around and around the blocks as he wanted to brainstorm this idea of starting gentle worship, which I'm sure Claire will talk about. Anyway, Walter was, as you know, a man of great depth, spirituality. He also embraced all traditions of spirituality. And a few days before he died, he and I were actually supposed to go to the synagogue for the Hanukkah celebration. And he was in the hospital, so we didn't do that. However, he and I have attended Seder meals in the past and other things. He, by the way, studied Hebrew. Anyway, I would like to share with you a homily that he actually probably presented to his congregation at one time. It's very short, and this is, to me, it's very significant of Walter, so I will read it. The meal was almost over. Rabbi Edelman stood and held up the 4th chalice of wine, the cup of Elijah. For 2.5 hours we had gathered for the annual Passover Seder, a majestic, joyful meal which celebrates God's mighty act of setting the Hebrews free from the slavery of Egypt. The Seder meal isn't so much a retelling of an ancient story as a reliving and reconnecting through which past and present join together. With our brothers and sisters of long ago, we tasted the saltiness of tears, the bitterness of a life in bondage, and even the mortar that had been used by the slaves to construct the monolithic buildings of Egypt. We recounted the 10 plagues and even remembered the suffering of the Egyptians. Throughout the meal, we ate matzah, the unleavened bread eaten in haste on the day of liberation. And now we were coming to the end of the story. I would have expected perhaps a hopeful but somber benediction of prayer. Instead, we began to sing songs that were just plain silly. There was a tune entitled One Kid Goat that reminded me of the nursery song, There Was an Old Lady That Swallowed a Fly. And each creature reminded me of the nursery song, and each creature devoured the previous one. Excuse me. Next, there was a song with a catchy refrain that repeated a single word over and over again, Dayenu. We sang it in Hebrew, but the English words were in front of us as well. As I read them over, I realized that we were singing a song with a very important message. The Hebrew word dayenu literally means, "It would have been enough for us." And the 15 verses of the song recount each one of God's saving acts during the Exodus liberation. And as each act was recalled, our refrain was always dayenu. Had he brought us out of Egypt but not parted the sea? Dayenu. Had he parted the sea but not fed us in the wilderness? Dayenu. Was it possible? Were the words of this 1,000-year-old song saying that it didn't matter whether God had completed the miracles that were so necessary for them to return to the Promised Land? I think the answer is yes and no. The cheerful song with an important message affirms the fact that God's love is sufficient for us. Hardships are not denied, but they never overshadow the fact that we are God's own. It reminds me of one of the funniest lines in the Bible in the 12th chapter of 1 Corinthians. Paul has been having a hard time and some sort of difficulty that we translate as thorn in the flesh. He prays that God remove the thorn, so Paul can return to his state of joy and ecstasy. God's answer, "My grace is sufficient for you." God's grace is sufficient in the same way that there is sufficient water in the ocean or sufficient number of grains of sand on the beach. Do you remember how David described it in Psalm 23? "My cup runneth over." Why would anyone want their cup to run over? It's the same joke that Paul told. God's grace is sufficient for us in the same way that David has sufficient wine in his cup. Dayenu turns out to be an important word to claim as we grow in our understanding of justification by grace through faith. What if God's grace is enough for us? What if we accepted the fact that God loves us sufficiently? Or perhaps the problem really is the conditions we place on God and our happiness. I recently did an exercise with a room full of people. I asked them to complete this sentence: "I will be happy as soon as ... It was amazing how easily it was for us to come up with all sorts of answers. I will be happy as soon as I find a boyfriend. I will be happy as soon as I get rid of my boyfriend. I will be happy as soon as all my bills are paid off. I will be happy as soon as the Cubs win the World Series. I will be happy as soon as I get the perfect tan," etc., etc. This is the exact opposite of living a life of dayenu, where who we are and what we have and what we accomplish fade away when compared with God's sufficient grace. Or perhaps they simply get out and put in proper perspective. The dayenu song calls us to place everything behind God's grace. It is only then that we have the courage to sing dayenu, no matter what our circumstances or state of mind. God's grace is sufficient. Dayenu, hallelujah.
I'm also the proud sister of Christy. Maybe some of you know this, but Walter could really spell. And the Literacy Council has an adult spelling bee every year. And he was on a team that was sponsored by Daryl Storino. And he was absolutely fantastic. And they won at least one time. What was it? Twice. Absolutely fantastic. And the kind of the sweet, bittersweet. One of the memories I have of Walter was I also went to the swimming pool that he was in, and I ran into him one day. It was in the fall, and I asked him if he was going to be back spelling with us this year, and he said, well, he'd have to check probably with Daryl. But anyway, that was the last time I got to see Walter. But it was a nice memory, and he was a fantastic speller. Fantastic. Thank you.
Walters that I'm doing is called Crossing the Road, that he wrote on September 26th. And I really like this one. There are several theories about what happened that night. One, this was alcohol related. Either she had been drinking or the driver of the vehicle that hit her. Two, she had been fighting with her daughter about who came first. Three, she had tendencies toward paranoia, always looking up, expecting, no, fearing the silent attack from above, and looking up did not permit her to look both ways. 4, someone was chasing her, and she was desperate, no, frantic. Whatever the reason, the result was the same. Her death was obvious. Her broken body, twisted, blood and feathers everywhere. And she was far, very far from getting to the other side.
The first thing I'm going to do is read a poem by Walter. It's called Suitcase Number 2. It was written on September 29th. Walking through the forest, he was amazed when the nut he was kicking down the path cracked open to reveal a tiny set of clothes. Little trousers and a pale blue shirt with a suit jacket that matched. Black suspenders, shoes, and a bow tie completed the outfit. Was it the garb of a troll? Or a dwarf? Or did it just belong to a well-dressed chipmunk? And when I was thinking about what I was going to play tonight, there were 2 songs that came to mind. One was written by Phil Oakes, and the other one, the one that I decided to do because we're only allowed to do 1 song, but not 2. It's okay. I saw Arlo Guthrie earlier this year, and he played this song, and he said it was the last song that his dad wrote. And I really don't know if it was the last song that he wrote, but that's what Arlo claimed. And I also believe that music needs to be shared, no matter how bad our voices are. My peace, I give to you. It's all I have for you. Wait a minute, that's not right. Nick, can you give me the sheet over there? I gotta remember the words. Yeah, give me the stand. That's the other problem of being an old fart, is you never remember all the words. All right, now I think I got it. All right. My peace is all I've got that I can give to you. My peace is all I've ever had. It's all I ever knew. I give my peace to green and black, to red and white and blue. My peace is all I've got that I can give to you. My peace is all I've got. It's all I've ever known. My peace is worth 1,000 times more than anything I own. I pass my peace around and around, across hands of every hue. My peace is all I've got that I can give to you. Now I think Walter would want you all to sing that along. I'm just one voice, you're dozens of voices, and if we sing loud enough, these walls will shake. And we can go out that door out on the 6th Street. The music would carry on the winds up and down 6th Street. It would travel to West Racine County, where there are homeless and hungry out there. And it would travel across Lake Michigan. and would get to the other shores, the Atlantic Ocean, the Pacific Ocean. And the wind would carry it maybe to a desert in Afghanistan and whisper in the ears of the lone soldier out there. So try it with me. My peace I give to you. My peace is all I've got that I can give to you. My peace is all I've ever had. My peace is all I've ever had. It's all I ever knew. I give my peace to green and black, to red and white and blue. My peace is all I've got that I can give to you. You're sounding like angels. My peace is all I've got. It's all I've ever known. My peace is worth 1,000 times more than anything I own. I give my peace a hand. I pass my peace a hand across the hands of every hue. My peace is all I got that I can give to you. Let's try one more time. My peace is all I've got that I can give to you. My peace is all I've ever had. It's all I ever knew. I give my peace to green and black, to red and white and blue. My peace is all I've got that I can give to you. My peace is all I've got. It's all I've ever known. My peace is worth 1,000 times more than anything I own. I pass my peace around and around, cross hands of every hue. My peace is all I've got that I can give to you. Beautiful, folks, beautiful.
So like I said, this is a poem that I wrote. It's kind of about identity, my personal identity, and I guess anyone can relate to it, but Walter had invited me to read it at his church, and like I said, I felt really honored to do that, so I'm going to share it with you guys since he really liked this poem. It's called The Yellow Cake Connection. Play the victim, sell your soul, slap your mama and suck the chicken bones good. The members of your party are stranded. What are you? Mammal, hip-hop, homo sapien, android, intersexed, oversexed, something like a seahorse? What are you? A subset, an implication, an equivalent, an experience? A box of Cheerios? No more black than white, no more white than black, neither white nor black, and sometimes Puerto Rican. What are you? A primary color, red and green light, an Oreo cookie, a box of Jiffy? What are you? Safe, exotic, ambiguous, the lesser sentence, the leading role, the promotion, the Cosby family secret, the reason you feel ugly, the unintentional enemy? What are you? I am everything society says you should be. And that's that.
Thank you. I'm carrying some of Walter's baggage this evening. We have the suitcase number 3, September 30th. What if you were able to take your worries, problems, and anxiety, roll them up in a ball, and cram them onto a shelf, into a box, into a suitcase? What if you realize that you could do this at whatever point you find yourself in your day or life? Can you imagine what that would be like? The whole point of living a life of faith is learning to do this, to trust, to hope. And if we feel naked without our worries, we can always open our Pandora's box and take them all back again. But why would we want to?
Quick side note about that poem. Last time Walter was at the Racine Public Library Writers Group, which, where did that come from? Oh, right. Which Trevor is a part of, and Kelsey's a part of, and I'm a part of, Nick's a part of, Klein is a part of, next Kelsey's a part of. So the last time he was there, we workshopped that poem, and when news came out on a Thursday, which is the day that we meet, was when I found out that Walter passed away. You know, I saw everyone later that night, and I said, you know, guys, just so you know, one of our own, Walter, passed away earlier. And, you know, everyone got real quiet. And then I'm pretty sure it was Kleina said, I hope we weren't too hard on his poems. Everybody, please welcome up another member of the RPL Word Shop, Kelsey Hoff.
Special accommodations, it's okay. I met Walter at the poetry group at the library. So I didn't know him for very long, but I was on the listserv, Poem a Day listserv with him as well. And like 3 or 4 times during the poetry listserv, he like sent me a message directly to me and said, I really liked your poem today. And it just made me feel really good. And I'm sure I wasn't the only one that he commented on and said, I like your poem today, because my poems weren't the best in the group. But so that makes me feel good that Walter said he liked my poetry. So he was always very supportive and always had nice things to say. So I'm going to read a few different things that I didn't write. I didn't think any of my stuff was like relevant, so I'm going to read some other people's poetry. And the first one I'm going to read is by Shel Silverstein, and I think Shel Silverstein has a poem for everything. He does. Even things that like most people should never think about. But I grew up reading Shel Silverstein, probably one of the first poets that I really got into. So this one's called Noise Day, and I think it's relevant to what Walter did with the gentle worship.
Yeah.
Let's have one day for the girls and boyses when you can make the grandest noises. Screech, scream, holler, and yell, buzz a buzzer, clang a bell, sneeze, hiccup, whistle, shout, laugh until your lungs wear out, toot a whistle, kick a can, bang a spoon against a pan, sing, yodel, bellow, hum, blow a horn, beat a drum, rattle a window, slam a door, scrape a rake across the floor, use a drill, drive a nail, turn the hose on the garbage pail, shout yahoo, hurrah, hooray, turn up the music all the way. Try and bounce your bowling ball, ride a skateboard up the wall. Chomp your food with a smack and a slurp. Chew, chomp, hiccup, burp. One day a year, do all of these. I'll read this one that I found by Emily Dickinson. It's called I Dwell in Possibility, and it touches on some spiritual things. I dwell in possibility, a fairer house than prose, more numerous of windows, superior for doors, of chambers as the cedars, impregnable of eye, and for an everlasting roof the gambrels of the sky, of visitors the fairest, for occupation this, the spreading wide my narrow hands to gather paradise. And I'll finish on a high note with another Shel Silverstein called Orchestra, like ours, our orchestra. So you haven't got a drum, just beat your belly. In the same vein. So you haven't got a horn, I'll play my nose. So we haven't any cymbals, we'll just slap our hands together. And though there may be orchestras that sound a little better, with their fancy shiny instruments that cost an awful lot, hey, we're making music twice as good by playing what we've got.
I first met Walter at Wilson's Coffee Shop. I was wearing a laughing. Right, yeah. There's only 2 coffee shops I really go to, and that's Circus Celeste and Wilson's, depending on where I walked that day. So that's where I met him. And I was wearing a Walk MS shirt. I do physical therapy. Well, I'm on like a little sabbatical from that right now, but right. I think it's okay. Let's see if it's okay. It's okay. Make some noise for that being okay. I got scared too. All right. So anyways, he says, "Hey man, I really like that shirt." And I said, "Oh, thanks, man." He comes and sits down. I'm outside, writing. And he says, he just sat and talked with me for about, I don't know, like 15, 20 minutes. Got to know each other a little well. And he was on his way. His ride came. And that day, I got a message on Facebook, a friend request message. And I got a private message saying, "I don't know what it is, but I feel that there's a link between us." I'm sure I'm not the only one that he's like said this to, But he says maybe it's just just one of those things, or maybe it's just because we're both super awesome people. And so I was like, all right, that's legit. This guy's friend request accepted. Right. So next time I saw him was at the open mic. He came and supported our open mic, and he read some of those punctuation poems, and some of us were here, when that happened. It was awesome. And so, I felt like, there's a close link between them, right? Like, him and I. And he says, he like sneaks around the corner here. He says, "Nick, come here." So I go back around the corner. He says, "Hey, can you button this for me?" And I was like, "Yeah, ain't no thing, man. So I do that, whatever." Then at the end of the night, he says, "Hey, man, I don't do this to many people, but like, would you sleep over at my house, man?" And I'm like, man, like, I got a good friend right here, like, this guy's a son. So there's all these like great memories I have, not so many, but the best memory I have is the first day of this public writers workshop, and he's right next to me, he's like, "Hey, come on, sit right here." So I sit next to him, and Nick's like being official and announcing things and all that stuff, and he says, "Hey, you want a spiced cucumber slice?" He picked this wet this wet cucumber spear with seasoning on it and pulls it out, and he says, "Here, man, here, just take it." So I said,
"No, I'll never be paying attention to those games."
So I took it, and I'm just laughing my butt off. It was one of the greatest. That was our link. It was spiced cucumbers stew. So, what you got on that? Anyways, I'm going to read a piece of his called "Hopeful Pollination." This was done on September 11th. They say that out of a bajillion winged seeds launched from a maple tree, that only one lands in good soil, germinates, and grows to a mature tree. They say that if you have a bajillion monkeys and you give each of them a typewriter, that one of them will eventually write Macbeth. Hannah says that if we keep writing poem a day until we reach a bajillion, that maybe one of them will germinate and the clicking of ancient typewriters will become a joyous song. That's legit right there. All right, here we go. Pretty good. One more time. Come on. Sing that one, man. science, possibilities, I just urge you to try it. Wasting time. Real loud now. Three more times. Wasting time. Two more, loud, 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 loud. Y'all great, right? Am I making sense? You should make sense. Every time you fail, you gain experience. Get up off the ground, swim around, surround. Steadfast on the path, who made the hard pound. Until this condition, I'll be on a mission. Trying to achieve, best believe I'll never give in. Just think to yourself what's the worst that can happen. Despite the bumpy ride, you all the cars captain for scrapping. And being an opportunist has got a lot to do with not having a clue. It's okay, just travel down the roadway and yell out those words that you usually won't say. Dance that dance and do it in your own way. Crowd popping lines like they did in the old days. Fear is the only thing holding you back. The present should be had, the future you're holding back. Don't waste your time. And that's the whole emphasis. What you choose to do can choose your true fate. So don't waste your time, or else it's too late. Don't waste your time, 'cause life is too short. Real loud. Don't waste your time. Alright, you guys, stop real quick. Stop real quick. Just you guys. Don't waste your time. Cause life is too short. One more time by yourselves. Don't waste your time. Cause life is too short.
I'm just a poor, wayfaring stranger, traveling through this world of woe. There is no sickness, no toil or danger in that bright world to which I go. I'm just a poor, wayfaring stranger, traveling through this world of woe. There is no sickness, no toil going over Jordan. I'm just going over home. I know dark clouds will gather round me. I know my way rough and steep, yet beauteous fields arise before me, where God's redeemed and King. I'm going there to see my mother. She said she'd meet me when I go. I'm just going over Jordan. I'm just going over home. I'm just going over Jordan. I'm just going.
We're good?
Okay. I'm Dana. I met Walter actually before Jungle Worship. I've known him for about 9 years. This is one of his punctuation poems. It's got parentheses and it's 9:15. I'm tired of having to explain myself to you. Smiles and frowns just don't do it for me anymore. You remind me of those theater masks. One happy, one sad. One comic, the other tragic. Bracketed intelligence, solemnified substitutions, meaning I have not been clear. Or maybe you're just too stupid.
That's Livin. Never in my life have I heard a story quite like mine. We all share the same light. Do you let yours shine? It's a windy road, it's a journey where you choose your destination. Will you arrive and when, or is it all just a fabrication? These facts of life, they're a mystery. It's up to you to write your very own history. Life is not a deck of cards, don't just settle with dealing. It's not a board game where only one person wins, so don't quit playing. It's not a box of chocolates or a bowl of cherries, but it can be bitter or sweet. It does go on, it is short, so find the one that makes yours complete. Life's not, it is what it is what you make it within your means. You know, a happy medium between two extremes. You can bet on it, lay it down, or put it on the line. Live on the edge, put it in someone else's hands, and I will put yours in mine. Life is a trip, it's crazy, beautiful, it's a bitch till you die. But you can have the time of your life, and this one and the next, just try. So go in the fast lane, hold on for dear life, it's a highway. Live it to the fullest, grab it by the horns, and do it from day to day. Live and learn, best things in life are free, whether it's a plan, fate, or your destiny. Or maybe there is only one life to live and die. How would you devote your time? What words would you live by? So live up to the golden rule, and in the things you receive in turn give, and remember just one word, and that is live. So in the spirit of prompts that we've been getting through our writer's circle, and some of the ones you heard tonight were from a prompt, so I took a joyful noise and I made something out of it. A joyful noise is heard by one, others listening grieve. People say when you go, it's to a better place, just believe. It's easy to say, we stay here and they are there. You just seen them and they vanished into the air. I was told you can see them someday on the other side. What if I get lost along the way and we don't coincide? Are they gone forever? no more time to share. Only the memories of the past just don't seem fair. Yesterday was only a day away from today, and if they're in your heart and mind, that is where they will stay. When you think of them, you can smile and let go of your pain. Remember, you never lost them, and forever with you they remain. Thank you.
I have one of pastors that I picked up when I got here, and I thought I would also read something very short of my own. Okay, maybe two things of my own.
Yeah.
They're both very short. I will see you again. I'm laughing. I'm gonna cry. Okay. I will see you again. I am laughing in the meantime. I am living your love. That's it, short. Number two. You are gone now. You changed the world. You changed my life. Now it's my turn.
Yeah.
And another punctuation poem. This one is the question mark. It was written on 9/21. Are you the one who went to market? Or the one who weed all the way home? Did they mistake you for one of the visually impaired trinity of rodents?
For Christmas, I got a loop pedal, and so we're just gonna jam with the loop pedal.
carrying his last suitcase, October the 2nd. Hopefully I can do this justice.
I screamed when you tore my arms off, but no one heard me even though I shouted as loud as I could. Lost in the forest, being torn limb from limb. It's not true what they say, that there is no one to hear the falling tree, the one hand clap. Nothing real has happened. My torn limbs, my oozing lifeblood, my screams, my pain are true. All that is left is for the woodsman to come and cut me down, to build a coffin and fill it with memories of better days. Get up, Chrissy Grider. Keep going.
Unplugged.
Oh, never mind.
Steady feet.
These words, these days, they are simply being lost to oblivion's lust. As we climb the clouds, we sip sun slowly from the glass. The grass at our ankles and sweet mnemosyne in the mind. The breath-breaking chest with the stars in our eyes. And so often we take hammers to the moon, chunking off huge mountains of crater in mass volume. And now, desperately, we clutch to these lunar rocks because we are lonely, we are lost, we are loved and dying. Because we can catch breath in our tangled lips and so easily offer it willingly to another. And when the night closes around us, we slip slowly into ourselves and attempt to curl our falling forms against the nearest warm sun, against the nearest dream we can capture completely. As we spin cyclical circles through sleep's sweet surrender and this dream's venerated and virtuous vernacular. Now, brothers and sisters, let us awake. What morning can break against the cold pain to swap moments in motion across these waxing patterns of light? Let yourself pick from the ground your lives, for they are spilling, they are flying at your feet. Take hands, take fists of wandering words, and let language swing freely from the eaves. But what is language to a soul? When silent reflection leans long, loud against the trembling weight of the stone. One can merely abstract poetic remnants from the natural beauty contained within the flame. For we are pages burning always and smoldering slowly in our eyes. Yet our mouth is not meant to hold fire. Only to bathe constant in its vast and articulate warmth. Only to maybe taste smoke. Have we truly been washed at the stars that orbited once above the curved orbit of our crown?
That's it. Thanks, guys.
And it's called Joy Sistina. Here it goes. I plan to obsess over the happy moments of life, one brushed aside so well by we who tend to live in tragic time. Dogs playing in the snow exhibit joy like this, as does a cat soaking in sun, through slats of open shutters. No forced smile of a salesman or a barkeep's smile, stirring up that substitute for happy moments in rooms that seldom see the sun. Let's steer our energies to being well, like endless film loops of exotic joy. A rewind set in upbeat salsa time. It shouldn't be hard to remember a time when your soul was imprinted with a smile that left an indelible stain of joy. That we are quick to dismiss the happy suggests we understand its power well, and yet, unlike the worshiper of sun, we seek the stability of shade. The sun warms us inside and out. This is our time to sing and dance. We will do it so well that it will be defined as love. The smile lingering in the eyes of a happy child rolling down a hill. That joy. This year I could have doled out almond joy to trick-or-treaters walking after sun. But I didn't want them to be fake happy sugar fiends, so I used my extra time to cultivate the habit of a smile in Sistina form. It might not be, well, as good as most, but in this wishing well, I'm lowering my bucket to catch joy and savoring the unexpected smile in a looking glass, the bright slant of sun sending positive energy. This time which we have left can be just as happy as we designate. A sad time works well in verse. Poets smile toward their morose sun. Revolt poets embrace the happy joy.
This is a fun night, I'm telling you, I'm really enjoying it. And I knew Walter, well, he was in the poetry writing group that we were in, and I did say, I hope we didn't, it was, the time before last, I said, boy, I hope we didn't say anything. That hurt his feelings. I think it was to break the tension, because it was so quiet, everybody was so quiet, and we were all feeling so bad. But it was I really didn't want to hurt his feelings. Anyway, I met him, I didn't really meet him ever. I know him from around town, and I'm a member of the Racine Coalition for Peace and Justice. And he did a, kind of like a sermon up on Monument Square one time, and it was so moving. Oh, it was wonderful. And I did tell him after I talked to him. So there were a couple times like that, and I've seen him around town. So it was really, really sweet to have him in our poetry reading group. And I got this one here from his Punctuations poem, and it was written September 14th. It's the end, the pustule, the scar of your last needle, the dab of Matisse, a peephole into the future, the construction site, the girl's bathroom, the spider eye, dark dandruff on the white tuxedo, the lancet tip aiming for your heart. It's all I have, all I can give. But maybe, just maybe, it's enough.
morning till I get some satisfied. You all know what that is. You know what that is. Here I go. So my old evil spirit catch a greyhound bus and ride. Leaving Racine, I'm leaving. Can I get an amen? Can I get an amen? Amen. Thank you so much. All right, quick tune here, quick tune here, quick tune. Nikki on drums. Yeah, we are the Dryer Corps. And here's one. Here's a song for you really quick. Let me go from the people's key to what's called Vestipole. Open D, open tuning. Open, I tune all my notes so I can use less fingers. So, hold all my calls, please. All right, this one I wrote for my wife because I love her so much. And she loves me so much. She loves me so much. Anyway, she bought me a car. This song's called 20 Grand. Actually, the singer picks them. With
cool. So I took her to Catalina Island, sitting all the other men through. But then money, women and cars. Steal my money, I was gonna steal a car. But I ain't gonna buy her diamond. I ain't got a 20 grand. Thanks so much, you guys are sweet. That's so nice. Thank you. National steel guitar, hope you like it.
My Tai Chi is not graceful. My beard is gone, I look Humpty Dumpty. People tell me the beard made me look sloppy, like I was on society's fringe. Well, now I am clean cut and humiliatingly civilized. Not really right now, but when I wrote this. Wobbly at heart, Adam Sandler movies are the only outlets that offer me sanctuary. I love hiding in the catacombs of a big tacky theater and listening to the teenagers sitting behind me laugh. Their laughter seems so natural, like all the sloppy things babies do. Can we really swim as soon as we're born? I have a hard time believing that. My buddy grew up on a small island. You had to take a ferry to get there. His parents never taught him how to swim, and I thought that was a really subtle way of being cruel. My mother taught me how to swim in the same creek where her father drowned. Maybe she was telepathic. Maybe she knew that she was going to die when I was 18, right after I lost my virginity to a Greek girl, and that I was going to put her ashes in that same creek. It was as if she knew all that. And she wasn't really teaching me how to swim or how to tread water. She was teaching me how to find life within grief. My buddy still cannot swim. I have tried to show him. It gets kind of awkward. He freaks out and starts grabbing hold of me, and it looks like we're cuddling. Instead, we go to the gym and we lift weights, we run. When we are doing bench presses, it's our attempt at a whale song. Where'd I put Walter's poem? Oh man, Walter's poem's running away from me right now. Which pocket? This one. I have so many pockets, I'm always losing crap.
We look like you're on society.
Keep going, just keep going, Jackson.
As long as I've ever played.
What in the hell? Is it really in this pocket? Yeah. There's nothing in this pocket except my songbook. What about the papers then? I could have sworn. Maybe it's in this. There she is. Oh, trying to hide from you. Alright, here we go. Alright, I really like this poem because I was actually born in Milwaukee, but then I moved out east when I was like 2 years old. And I'd come out here in the summer times to visit my grandmother. Both Jax and I come from minister stock. Both our parents are ministers. And so we have a lot of grandmas in our life. And I have a really good grandmother in Racine on Hayes Avenue. Anyway, this poem I thought reminded me of Racine. It's called Suitcase Number 4, written in 10/1. I was going to my grandma's house, and I wanted to pack a suitcase full of all of her favorite things. She loves the outdoors, and so I packed the forest. She loves birds, and so I packed the songs of mourning dove and goldfinch, plus the sound of a hummingbird's whispering wings. She loves to bake, and so I packed the aroma of a kitchen with bread in the oven and sizzling bacon on the fry pan. If I could, I would climb in too. Thank you.
This is called Piss Grace Patriot. You paddled the boundary waters despite the fact that you couldn't walk. You chastised the board members. You're making a bad decision despite the fact your body temp dropped, swaddled in quilts at the meeting. Ultimately, we all looked up to you despite the fact you could no longer stand. Walter, when you died, they put a front page write-up in the paper. They said that no matter the challenge you faced, you'd say, "Today's a good day." But this is not quite an ode to that. This is an ode to a secret. A secret that turned church basements into shelters, that turned nonverbal autistic kids into ecstatic prophets. You were pissed. You were pissed that MS broke you. And you were pissed that despite that, even still, you were least broke of all your people. When the sclerosi multiplied, you clenched your teeth and your fists. You fought and you raged at a pestilent world, but it be a razor-wired foe. So when the occasional fall turned into a cane, turned into you'll never walk again except in dreams, deep water, or death, you said, "No problem. Then I'll just make sure I'm constantly caught in all three of them." And you waded in the water, and you dreamed wild as fire, and you whispered into death's ear every morning, "I'm ready whenever you are." And in the meantime, I will suck the marrow out of this crumbling world and glass blow its bones into flowers I can give people I meet along the way. Oh, and when I say the fear of God, this is what I mean. I mean the love which so insanely blasts out of your every pore it scares the holy shit out of me. We are capable. So capable, so grotesquely, unflinchingly capable. You looked into your enemy's eyes like a lover and smiled, "All right, then pin me." And your body stank like death, but you wore it like holy anointed lilacs. And I know this because I dressed and undressed you. I wiped dried bloods from your privates, which weren't. I put you to bed, and you blessed me goodnight through the Darth Vader hiss of your CPAP, and this was the gift that you gave me. The first time you asked for my help, in a coffee shop on a winter day with the words, "Can you help me piss?" And suddenly, I'm being taught something about humility that somehow none of the books I have read have ever taught me. Not from your unflinching instructions on catheter application, but from your unwillingness to even waste a second on feeling shame. Oh, glory of glories! Sweet, disgusting glory, the glory of a life that looked for meaning in its suffering and in so doing rejoiced in what it found. Yeah, buddy! Your wheelchair a throne! The plastic grommet ring, your colostomy bag threaded into a glory hole, a testament of glory. You were pissed with such a righteous rage, you had no choice but to love, and to love with the abandon of a man trashing an altar. How many merch tables did you upturn in this temple, singing, "You will not profane this house. I have boundaries, and this is violating all of them." But this is just a metaphor, because you were too meek for violence, which proved everything that I've ever been told about power is a lie. You couldn't even stand, not even for what you believed. You couldn't stand it. You couldn't stand for it, not even for pledging allegiance. You just sat there like a form of protest. You couldn't have forsaken if you tried. Like a monk on fire in the town square, you sat for what you believed. You were pissed into grace like a kiss on the face. You were sweetly, divinely diseased. And I thank you, Walter, for reminding me what power isn't. Father of my descent, when everyone else is standing for what they believe in, professing their loyalties over the rocket's red glare, when they're standing it, when they're standing for it, I will exercise my patriotism and I'll lower myself. A dissent. Somebody needs to sit.
Let's make some noise for Jackson one more time, please. Before we do this clap, a round of applause, let's make some noise for Nick Demske, Nick Demske, Christy J, John Worrell, Adonis Jamal, Marco Hermanns, Joni Williams, Chris Willis, Kelsey Harris, Tim McCarskey, Kelsey Hoff, Rich Heiderholt, myself, Angela Malone, Dana, Claire, Kleiner, Trevor Lewis, Connor Berkshire, Anna Stotts, Joey, Aaron Lundquist, The Dryer Corps, Justin Grimball, Jackson Potter Barrow, Kenneth Hatt, and all of you. It's a pretty amazing list right there.
Then everybody started drumming, and now we're humming, we are singing the song. We gotta all come along and have fun. It's like positivity within us. Know I gotta feed all y'all dinners, and y'all fed me too. It's like the path where you led me through. Yeah, we got positivity that we be gaming on. Know that this understanding was strong. It's all about self-expression from the inside, and then outside this life without pride or sun shining. I know that I'm smiling. I gotta keep moving like a ladder. I'll be climbing, playing it like Simon. But who's saying it? I know I get down like Harvard, who be laying it. I got my man Christian playing on guitar, got the drumming bizarre. Know that I go to the stars, and I'm at the place with me. We gotta North Racine Bakery, like bakers you need to open. I'm scoping what you gonna do. I gotta get down. I'm hoping everybody in the place they feel it, and I know it's like an eel split and straight shocking. Know that I'll be dropping, hang with all the potential inside of locking. I got my man Chris up on Morocco, hot like the mama to know that I ain't down like Harvard. Know that we can get down, and then I ain't stopping, Know that you were moving to win. Gotta come with the music split. Positivity, get down with David, the great kid. Yo, I get hyped when he made it. And I grab microphones in my hand. We gotta create our own band. The band right here, let the climb out. Drop a bomb, cause this is the bomb show. I'm so glad that I was participating and hanging with everybody down to be singing. I know it's playing down like it's the time. And everybody here, yo, I do it for a while. And I smile, freestyle from the top. I keep soaking it up, it's like water to a mama said. Don't stop when you get down on tambourine. Yeah, I know the girls from Racine. We gotta know we glow and then we clean like the stars, bright, stars tonight. I got everybody, 21 performers. Yeah, it's like street warmers. Oh, this makes me feel so good. I like this Racine neighborhood. And all my friends that I've met so far, I keep thinking all the way to the stars. And when I'm looking down, I keep looking. I keep looking. Yeah. Go ahead.
drum action.